Hello everyone, we are here today in the European and International Nurses Day that we are celebrating in the European Parliament with very important guests. Today we had also a debate about the situation of nurses across Europe. I had to remember that I'm also a nurse, an emergency nurse during a long time, and I still am a nurse. So for me it's a pleasure to have this distinguished guest in the European Parliament. But I will give the voice first to Paul De Raeve for the European Federation of Nurses.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul, for being here today.
Thank you, Nicolas. At the European Parliament, EFN is involved in different own initiative reports, as you know, especially on housing, which is a problem for nurses in the EU. On cross-border care is an important file, psychosocial risk, led by Keulemans, you're from the Belgium Socialists, and importantly, the INI report on EU health workforce. Today, International Nurses Day, is an important opportunity for us to celebrate these EU developments, which can provide an answer to the huge shortages of nurses, the high workload and the burnout they have, next to exhausting working conditions that nurses experience every day. Unless adequate, supported and protected nurses are today, they will continue walking away from the nursing profession and from the healthcare sector overall. In this challenging EU context, EFN welcomes the work the European Parliament in the SANT and the Employment Committee is doing on the own initiative report on EU health workforce crisis and the plan that they are developing. While national governments and even the European Commission increasingly deprioritize the health workforce crisis, the European Parliament is leading by example, providing frontline nurses with some concrete EU policy options that could strengthen their resilience. While your Employment SAN Committee has some crucial upcoming votings in July and in June, EFN can say with confidence that the rapporteurs and the shadow rapporteurs of this INI report and the MEPs like you have all been taking the nurses support, the arguments that we have and the justifications for the compromise amendments very seriously. So thank you for that support you have given to the nursing profession in the EU, seeing them reflected today in the compromise amendments. Whatever comes out of this process, Nicolas, we need concrete actions. We cannot develop an INI report for the bookshelves. The INI report needs to protect the nursing profession title by protecting the minimum EU education, the directive on mutual recognition. This is a long-standing priority for EFN, being the pillar of patient safety and quality of care. You need high-qualified nurses. So in that sense, since the start of the drafting of the INI report, safe staffing levels has been highly on the agenda for EFN, and you successfully had a Spanish session this morning where you highlighted the importance of safe staffing levels. But the INI report needs to call on the European Commission and the Council to put in place staffing levels with the invitation to the European Commission to explore concrete actions in this field, with a call for member states to implement and enforce existing staffing level frameworks. Furthermore, as you discussed this morning, Advanced Nurse Practitioners, APN, is now a consolidated feature throughout the INI report. This is a huge achievement for nurses in the EU. The INI report adequately recognizes the professional recognition and harmonization of these APNs throughout the European Union, and this is a crucial element to tackle the shortage of nurses and also physicians. EFN therefore invites all MEPs to vote in favor of the INI report in June and July, as we need now to push the European Commission and the Council to legislate safe staffing levels and APN at the European level. The European Commission proposal for an EU framework legislation on safe staffing levels with stipulated nurse-to-patient ratios is within the competences of the European Commission, especially in the field of occupational health and safety. So there is no reason to say about subsidiarity. They have the competency to do that. So in that sense, it is key that safe staffing levels are key to provide nurses with the right working environment, safe from violence, harassment, and exposure to hazardous medication, which worsen only the nurses' shortage. And from a Commission perspective, we know that the Commission is ready to develop a common training framework for APNs. And this within the skills portability action that DG Employment is doing right now. So we have these political opportunities in front of us. We have worked on this for many years. So the EFN message is very clear. Political commitment, cross-political parties in this House is crucial to at least move to concrete issues so that we can tackle the shortage of frontline nurses and doctors. You know, to conclude, Nicolas, that solutions are understood in overcrowded hospitals, in failing supplies, in primary healthcare centers, which are working with almost no resources. This is where nurses' leadership is tested. This is where nurses' trust is earned. That is where theory meets the real reality, with frontline nurses holding broken systems together every single day. And that is the reason why we celebrate today in the European Parliament the International Nurses Day.
Indeed, Paul, today is a very important day, and as you mentioned now, it's an opportunity. We have in the Parliament an opportunity to tackle all the challenges that nurses we have ahead in the next years at the European level, because nurses shortages is a chronic problem, but could be even worse in the next years, because there are not many people that wants to be involved as a nurse, to develop a career as a nurse, because there is a lack of attractiveness sometimes in some member states, and a lack of recognition, not maybe at social level, but probably at salary level, or even the recognition of this career. So we have to defend nurses. And of course, to defend nurses, we need also strong associations and strong unions. So I want to welcome today to Laura Villaseñor, that she is the president of SATSE, that is the Spanish Union for Nurses, and I will switch to Spanish. Hola Laura, ¿qué tal? Y bienvenida al Parlamento Europeo para esta celebración del Día Internacional de las Enfermeras, que lo hemos empezado con un evento hablando de los problemas de la enfermería en toda Europa, no solo centrándonos en España, en toda Europa, porque creemos que hay problemas que son comunes. Y en ese estudio que se presentaba hoy, que presentabas hoy, hay algo muy importante que se mencionaba, y es una de cada 4 enfermeras, también médicos, tienen ciertos síntomas de depresión, y cuanto más joven es el profesional o la profesional, mayores son esas situaciones de desapego, de sentimientos de que hay una presión excesiva asistencial y una falta de reconocimiento. ¿Qué podemos hacer y si de verdad esto está sucediendo? Es lo primero que tenemos que saber, ¿no?
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Nicolás. Gracias a los compañeros de mesa. Sí, efectivamente, hoy en esta jornada que hemos llevado a cabo se ha presentado este estudio con verdaderos riesgos psicosociales y problemas de salud mental en la población de enfermeros. También en el estudio se recogían datos de médicos, pero en el caso de las enfermeras es más que evidente, ¿no? Es un problema que nos viene acechando desde hace tiempo, pero no tiene una única causa, o sea, es un problema multifactorial y por tanto pues también tiene que haber soluciones desde diferentes líneas de acción, ¿no? Yo creo que se confluyen una serie de factores como es, por un lado, la falta de reconocimiento, la falta de que se escuche a las enfermeras, ¿no? De que las enfermeras tengamos esa voz propia, esa capacidad de decidir, no solo en cuanto a los equipos, sino también en cuanto a los sistemas, en cuanto a los servicios y a los problemas con los que los pacientes, los familiares, los cuidadores se enfrentan cada día. Esa falta de reconocimiento, esa falta de escucha, el no reconocer el liderazgo que las enfermeras tienen en el proceso de salud, la capacidad de planificación, la capacidad de gestión, la capacidad investigadora y la capacidad para llegar a las casas de los pacientes, de llegar a sus cuidadores, todo eso genera una frustración muy importante en los profesionales. Las enfermeras hemos avanzado muchísimo en cuanto a formación, cualificación, preparación, competencias, pero todo ese avance no se ve reconocido de la misma manera. El avance ha sido muy progresivo, ha sido quizás exponencial, diría, pero el reconocimiento se ha mantenido no por parte, como decías, Nicolás, no por parte de la sociedad. La sociedad nos valora muy positivamente, incluso en las encuestas que se hacen a nivel europeo del Instituto Nacional de Estadística o del barómetro sanitario, siempre las enfermeras son puntuadas muy favorablemente por la sociedad, pero sí nos encontramos con esa falta de reconocimiento por parte de las instituciones, de las administraciones y de los empleadores. Eso unido pues, a que trabajamos en unas condiciones de sobrecarga laboral permanente porque hay una falta estructural de profesionales, trabajamos en condiciones de una presión asistencial cada vez mayor y con escasez de recursos, con unas planificaciones que no permiten conciliar la vida personal y la vida laboral. Bueno, pues creo que forman un caldo de cultivo que hace que se generen estos problemas no solo de depresión, sino también de ansiedad, de estrés, de burnout, todos los problemas que ya conocemos. Por eso yo creo que el haber podido desarrollar hoy aquí esta jornada en el Parlamento Europeo, poder hablar en el Día Internacional de la Enfermera este 12 de mayo, es una oportunidad no solo para felicitarnos y para celebrar, sino que creo que también es una ventana de oportunidad para reivindicar y para defender pues, nuestros derechos laborales, nuestra profesión, nuestro reconocimiento como profesionales y que además lo que queremos es poder ser cada vez mejor profesionales, pero estar mejor reconocidas. Y para eso necesitamos que se garanticen los recursos para que podamos trabajar como queremos trabajar, como queremos cuidar a nuestros pacientes, como queremos atender a la población y como merecen los usuarios de los servicios de salud. Como comentabas, la falta de enfermeras es un problema que no solo afecta a España, es un problema que ya está generalizado en toda la Unión Europea, pero en el caso de España sí que tenemos un déficit muy importante cifrado por el propio Ministerio de Sanidad en cerca de 100.000 enfermeras. Tenemos una de las ratios más bajas de enfermeras por 1.000 habitantes y nosotros desde SATSE lo que llevamos a cabo fue una iniciativa legislativa popular en la que recogimos cerca de 700.000 firmas que lleva desde el año 2020 en el Congreso de los Diputados más de 6 años, 133 prórrogas y lo que se necesita es ya pues, una voluntad política para que podamos sacar adelante una norma que regule la dotación segura de pacientes que una enfermera puede atender con calidad, con seguridad y con las mejores garantías, ¿no? Y para eso, bueno, pues esperamos que en esta legislatura pueda ser aprobada esta iniciativa legislativa popular porque al final está demostrado, la evidencia es extensísima, el tener unas ratios adecuadas de pacientes por enfermera no solo salva vidas, sino que además mejora los resultados en salud, mejora los resultados en cuanto a menos complicaciones, menos reingresos y eso al final contribuye a la sostenibilidad del sistema.
Pues creo que son problemas compartidos. Ahora me moveré, I will switch to Terhi Reunama I said well the name?
Almost correct, yes.
It's complicated because she's a Finnish nurse. Thank you for
Yes.
being here today in this International Nurses Day. For me, it's a pleasure also to have colleagues from different parts of Europe. And I mean, do you feel that the problems that were mentioned by Paul and also mentioned the situation of the lack of nurses, the shortage that we are having, is the same in Finland? And which are the solutions you have in your country to solve this kind of problems?
Thank you, Nicholas, and hello everyone, distinguished colleagues. As said, I'm Terhi Reunama, I'm the Finnish nurse, and I'm visiting here in the European Parliament today with my 24 nurse colleagues. And we faced almost the same problems, and that was mentioned by Paul, but my speech I was preparing to you today is more like a European level, more like a broader level than what we are facing currently in Finland. So I can, with very proud, I can say that nurses are the backbone for every healthcare system. And without sufficient skilled and supported nursing workforce, no system can function. And I think you all agree. That's why nurses must be recognized as a critical professional group. The resilience and performance of health systems are deeply dependent directly on having enough well-educated professionals. The nursing shortage is not just a workforce issue, I think it's the threat to health security. And many countries have tried to address this shortage throughout the international recruitment. And today, 1 in 7 nurses works outside of the country where they have been trained. And nearly a quarter of them working in the high-income countries. And that is not a solution, I think. The mobility must be ethical, the recruitment must be ethical. And we cannot solve our own shortages by weakening other healthcare systems in other countries. So the WHO safeguard list identifies 55 countries with critical workforce shortage, and active recruitment from these countries should be definitely avoided. And agreements on workforce mobility must be benefit both sending and receiving countries and be built on the transparency and cooperation. But at the same time, I'm thinking that fairness for individuals must be ensured. So the nurses should be able to work in the roles that match for their education without unnecessary barriers. And licensing processes must be streamlined so that skills can be put into use without any further delay. In response to shortages, staffing levels have been reduced in some places as well. And I think this is a serious mistake. So inadequate staffing is both professional hazard and structural risk to the patient safety, quality of the care, and crisis preparedness. And safe nurse to patient ratios must be defined at the national level and based on the evidence, not only on the costs. As we all know, the healthcare is coming more complexity. Populations are aging, care needs are increasing, and the treatments are evolving, and that demands higher levels of the competencies. And therefore, I think we cannot compromise the education. We need the strong initial training, continuous professional development, and clear career pathways, including those advanced roles Paul mentioned, advanced practice nursing. And then I want to say a few words about the leadership. I think the leadership is crucial. Nurses need immediate managers who have the capacity to support the staff and develop the practice. And nursing leadership must be strengthened in all levels. And I think every country should appoint government chief nursing officer with the formal role in national health policies, ensuring that nursing expertise is integrated into the decision making. And then I want to touch one of the more serious topic, I think. European security environment has changed rapidly. We face all kinds of threats, cyber threats, disinformation, pandemics, and the impact of the war nearby regions. In this situation, nurses often work very extremely difficult conditions. In times of conflict, nurses still continue to fulfill their professional and ethical duty to care. Sorry, this topic is a bit emotional for me. They treat, ensure, support families in distress and keep essential services running, often under fear, uncertainty, and being in personal risk all the time. International humanitarian law is clear. Health professionals, patients, and healthcare facilities must be protected at all times. Medical neutrality must be respected, and attacks on healthcare are unacceptable. When healthcare is targeted, the consequences go far beyond immediate loss of life. Health systems weaken, trust erodes, and communities suffer lasting harm. Protecting healthcare is essential for recovery and for the resilience of the societies. And we nursing community, we all nurses here, we stand definitely in solidarity with colleagues working under these dangerous conditions. We must remember that nurses are never combatants, they are caregivers. They must be able to work safely, with dignity and without fear. Nurses will continue to raise their voice for the peace, for the protection of the healthcare, and for the safety and dignity of both nurses and the people they serve. And we must remember, resilience is built everyday life. Nurses support people to cope, recover, and move forward. Nurses do not provide care, we build the resilience of our societies. And even though the message was a bit hard, I want to wish you all happy Nurses Day and send especially all the Finnish nurses listening to this broadcasting hyvää sairaanhoitajan päivää. Olen ylpeä ollessani sairaanhoitaja.
Thank you very much, Terhi, but also the colleagues, Laura and Paloma. In meantime, Nicolas has left this session because he has other important political meetings in this parliament. But the message is clear. We strongly value the work of the European Parliament, the different committees, the MEPs who are supporting us throughout our difficult work. We look forward to the Council in taking initiatives in order to protect the nurses in the EU member states, and we look forward in working with the European Commission in bringing our topics to the political agenda. So, as Terhi and Laura already said, to all the nurses in the EU, in Europe, and globally who is listening to the nurses in Brussels, a happy International Nurses Day, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much.